guys had a great day, a good week, and stayed safe-ish, safe enough. Today is a little different. I wasn't gonna release this video, but I have another video coming out that involves me bluing. But this video here is gonna be me picking up with the gold on the Rubric Marines that I was working on. I just kept recording the last time I finished, and I have me finishing up the gold. So I'm going to add it here. It's part of that same video batch that happened last time with the messed up audio, and to be fair, I didn't really talk about much anyway. So I'm mostly just going to ramble, talk a little bit about what I'm doing on screen, and just talk about other things, things that interest me, things that I'm thinking about. Yeah, let's get into it. Right now, I'm showing you guys, that is one of my bases. I finished the rock. Oh no. I finished the rock, and then I just gave a little dry brush to the actual models. Also, while I'm doing this, I'm going to be assembling some Hearthkin warriors. So a little bit of everything all at once. Now, as a reminder, the gold I'm using for this is Hoplite Gold by Army Painter. Not sponsored. It should be a nice color for these guys. I do end up liking how this turns out in the end. It's not perfect by any means, but as far as gold goes, it ends up being kind of nice. So here I'm just using my dry brush, and I'm going through it. I just want to, I'm experimenting here. I've got a book here. The book actually has indents for the lettering. So what I'm doing is dry brushing the page. I end up going a bit heavier than I wanted to. And I always do that when I dry brush. I always learn the hard way. You think I'd learn eventually, but the first go around, I always have too much paint on the brush. Right. Take more time and wick more paint off, for the love of God, than I do. Anyway. That's besides the point here now. Oh, I got a lot of tan thing. There we go. So, three and one. Yeah, I'm just dry brushing that page. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is picking your faction. So I picked Thousand Suns. I quite love them. I picked them for their aesthetic, and they're god awful to paint. Let's be honest here. Let's be realistic. They're a nightmare to paint. They're one step above just give up. Actually, that's not fair. The Rubric Marines are the real problem, but overall. However, what I would say is that you're free to choose whichever faction you like, right? So don't let the intimidation of actually painting these guys stop you, okay? No, they're not easy to paint, and no, they never will be easy to paint, right? But That doesn't mean they're impossible. It doesn't mean that there's no way around it. And like me, I learned by doing the Thousand Suns and by struggling and crying. I became a better painter, right? And I would not be as good as I am now, as confident as I am now, if I hadn't done that. So, don't be afraid to choose a faction just because the paint job's intimidating. It will make you better. You will get better around it. That does happen. And also, I won't even lie to you, your first couple of models, my entire first squad of Rubric Marines, by my current standards, looks like ass. They do. They look like ass. Not even good ass. Recycled ass. Okay? That's just it. Right? That is just the consequence of it. I'm not worried about it, though, because I did what I could, right? I did my best. I think they look... Well, I shouldn't say that. I think they look like ass. But I still think they're good. They're good in their own way. I'm not going to repaint them. I could. I could strip them and repaint them. That's what I would have to do. I put the paint on too thick my first go round, so I would have to strip them and repaint them. But again, I am not going to do that. I don't think they're that bad, and there's something about having them, about seeing where I started versus where I am now. That is nice. I'm able to look at them and be like, hey, this is where I was, this is where I started, and this is where I am now. And it's always good to have that and show and be able to see that, right? I'd also like to say something about picking aesthetics as well. So this is my third squad of rubrics, technically, and they're going to be a different color gold than the other squad, who is a different color gold than the other squad. It happens. Particularly when you use gold, if you're just buying it, because, again, what you want might not be available. So you're limited there. So no, it can happen and work out not the way you want it to work out. But there's always stuff you can do, right? So I'm painting these guys. Like I said, I'm not worried about it. That their aesthetics might not be exactly the same everywhere. And that's okay. Sorry, just give me a second here. I gotta look something over real quick. Yeah. For me, I do kind of need that narrative justification for why something isn't the same. So what I do is I made my little army, and I said, well, these are different war bands. My primary army, they're a war band with Magnus. And my second set, well, they're a war band with Airmen. So one, I have painted my custom Thousand Suns color mix. The other I have painted in Airman Blue. Slightly different, but it is noticeable, right? It's not like you say, oh, well, no one would know. No, people would know, but I'm okay with it. Right? There's a justification there that suits what I think just fine. So at the end of the day, I think it's okay. Okay, just gotta pause this really quick here. All right, and we're back here. Sorry about that. Just had to do some reading, do the instructions. Yeah, I think that's important. It's just, I know with Space Marines it's easy to kind of do your own thing a lot of the times, but you can also do your own thing with the other factions. I'm just going to turn on my lights here. That's no worries. And anyone who has a problem with that can fuck right off. All right? That's the big thing. It's your army. It's your plastic. Do what you want with it, but also don't feel bad if you're not perfect at something just yet. Yeah. Anyway, that's my encouragement. Oh yeah, here I'm just doing the gold. I'm trying some different techniques with this stuff. Because this is the first time I've ever used it other than the last video. And I just want to see what I think will work best. It's a nice gold. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm just trying to figure out how I want to go about it. Oh, this is an awful mold line on this guy. Come on, GW. Yeah. So yeah. I chose 1,000 Suns. A little diversion there, a little digression. Because I did really like their aesthetic. That was what ended up drawing me to them. I'm also a little bit of a hipster. So I didn't really want to choose something super popular that everyone had to do, everyone was doing. I wanted to go my own way a little bit. And it didn't seem like a lot of people had a lot of love for them. So that also influenced my decision. But ultimately, I did settle on them. I really was honestly choosing between them and Space Wolves because, gotta have some love for the Vikings. Who doesn't love Vikings? Especially Space Vikings. But yeah, ultimately, I did end up liking the aesthetic of the 1,000 Suns more. I like the Space Wolves aesthetic, I'll be honest. I did like it. I say I'll be honest, like it's like a horrible admission. Like it's like, man, I'll be honest, like I do meth every weekend. Like no, I'll be honest, I like the Space Wolves aesthetic. Yeah, no, I like the Space Wolves aesthetic. It's a nice one. Like I said, I'm a sucker for that Viking aesthetic. So that was nice. But at the end of the day, I did find that they really were a bit too samey with the other Space Marines. I don't know, the 1,000 Suns just... I mean, it's chaos. Chaos can be incredibly different, right? So, no, I ended up going with them. My nice Egyptian space wizards. But like I said, I started with them and ended up, like I said, I've gotten better with them over time as I've done more. And I think that's the big thing is like, if you're willing to accept that it's not going to be perfect at first and that it might not even be good at first, choose what you want. And worst case Ontario, you can revisit it later and redo it. Or like I said, you get better at your hobby and you like to leave it as a nice reminder for where you started. And that's fine too. Yeah. Now, for me, for some people, this is, obviously what they do. For me, this is just a pure hobby. I'm a teacher, and despite what many people think, teaching is an incredibly stressful job. Even when things go perfect, teaching's a stressful job. You take so much baggage home. Um, I can't think of a lot of jobs. I mean, there are a lot of jobs, but off the top of my head, I do struggle to think of other jobs, where you are physically on, you're moving around, you're going around all day. I do not sit down from the moment I go into the building until I leave. Right? I mean, not literally, but like for the most part, like I'm up and about. Now, I know some people, I had them myself, there are teachers that will go in and never leave their desk, but to that I say, people that, people work in different ways. I don't judge teachers for how they teach. I judge them on how effective they are. Lots of teachers have different styles that suit them. And if it works for them, it works for their students, right? It's not always about doing everything. I shouldn't say it's not always. It's never about doing everything the cookie cutter. Oh, I dropped the vase. It's never about doing everything the cookie cutter way. There is no right way. It's about what works for you and what works for your students and finding a middle ground. So yeah, no, I know. That being said, I do know I've had not great teachers in the past, but teaching is a stressful job. You're up all day. You're on the beat all day. And there are lots of hard, laborious jobs out there where you're working incredibly hard. But teaching is, for me, one of those rare jobs where it's not just that you're moving around. It's not particularly physically strenuous. It might be a bit endurance-inducing, but it's not the strain, the physical strain. It's the fact that you are going and you are mentally on the entire day. There is no off. There's no, okay, I'm done now. I have 5 minutes where I'm not doing anything. Even on your time where you're on break or prep, you're working, or you're thinking about something, or something's going on. Even when you're sitting in your classroom and your kids are working quietly, people might look at you and say you're not doing anything, but your brain is going, you are thinking, you are listening, because newsflash, teachers are listening to everything you say, and sometimes we don't tell you that we're listening, and we might hear something and we don't say anything, so that you don't know that we're listening. So that when you say something that's a much bigger deal, we can respond to it. But yeah, it's that little bit of physical, not the biggest deal, but it's that combined with, like I said, just the mental engagement of being constantly worried about what you're doing, about what your kids are doing, about what's going on out in the hall. It's exhausting. I love it. Don't get me wrong. This is not me complaining about teaching. I love teaching. It's fantastic. I would never do anything else with my life. I can't imagine a world where that's not what I'm doing. But what I was driving at was, because my job does end up leaving me like kind of petered out a lot of the time. And the truth of it is, outside of this stuff, there are plenty of incredibly stressful parts of your job that are legitimately stressful, not fake stressful, not annoying, legitimately just stressful to the max. try having a parent yell at you because their child is failing, but they've only attended 4 days of school. Right? Stuff happens. I found it was important for me to find hobbies that would let me disconnect because of this stuff. And one of those hobbies was, actually I'm going to take a slight diversion here. I'm using my special sauce in this section right here. This is a very small solution of, very dilute solution of jet dry, like using a washer. I put about 1 or 2 drops in that whole squirt bottle, and I use it for when I want to thin my paints. The reason I use it is because what jet dry does in your washer is it causes your dishes to dry quicker, right? It stops streaking and all that and causes your dishes to dry quicker. It does the same things to your paint. So if you thin your paints down with a jet dry mixture like that, what ends up happening is they actually dry quicker. So when you're doing 2 thin coats, that is actually a pretty good way to make it so that your paint dries quicker so you don't smear it. Now you got to work a little bit quicker. That's the trade-off. If you leave it too long, it might dry on your brush. So you do have to work a little bit quicker. But 2 thin coats of that, and then just, like I said, 2 thin coats with that, your paint will dry on much quicker. It will be a lot easier to avoid smearing and stuff. That's what I do. I'm thinning down that gold because I found it was... Oh my. Here we go. I found it was... I didn't like how it was pooling. Oh wait, I dropped a head. And that went flying. Repause. Oh crap, what was I saying? Sorry, I'm back now. Yeah, no, I found it was important, to have a hobby that really kind of took me away from all of that. In previous places, I had used like Magic and stuff, and deck building as my place to go. But for here, I opted for Warhammer. And like I said, when I first recorded this for you guys, when I started, I did not think I was going to particularly enjoy the hobbying part of Warhammer. But I ended up really liking it. Now, I thinned down that gold because I thought it was pooling a bit too heavily. And I was losing some of that zenith that I put underneath. I felt that when it dried on my original, it looked a bit too sameish. So I thinned it down, and instead of treating it like a normal contrast paint, I started treating it a bit more like a normal paint at this point. Just a very thin normal paint. I was worried at the time that the gold would lose some of its shine. And if that happens, I've got a way to do that. So if you want to paint, you want to thin down a metallic or mix a metallic, and you're worried about how the losing that metallic sheen, what I do is I take a very light silver, So the one I actually use is just Silver, Piata Silver by Vallejo. Sorry, I'm just trying to get ahead here in some tweezers. And then I put it, well, no, that headband too. This Votan head thing is just cursed. This Votan head thing is just absolute. Yeah. Yes, yeah, no, I thinned it down. Didn't like the way it was pooling. Put it on. But if you want a dry brush, you want to add that metallic shine back on, I take a really light silver. I use Piata Silver, Vallejo. There we go. We're back on track, folks. Or the equivalent I found in GW on the Citadel line is Stormhost Silver. I use that, and I dry brush the ever-loving shit out of it. I put it on the palette, and I work that fucker into the palette. Once I've worked it enough, pretty well all that's coming off is the metallic bits that are left. Which is what I'm aiming for. And if there's a little bit of silver, I just make sure I start at the edge, and then it just adds a nice little edge highlight. Right? So, yeah. That's how I restore. I did it on my partner's Necrons. I used that technique because I custom mixed a metallic blue for those, which, if you're curious, was just Stormhost Silver and wait, hold on. It was just Stormhost Silver and McCrag Blue contrast paint. Mostly Stormhost Silver with just thinned down till I got the right shade of blue I wanted from McCrag. And that made what I felt was a nice shade of blue that she was looking for, because she didn't like the regular Necron colors. You know, and to each their own, right? So you know, I've just put this arm on this thin guy, and I don't actually like what I've done. Looks a bit too busy. So I'm actually going to remove it. And attach one of his normal arms. Yeah, no. So that's how I did that. And like I said, it dulled it a little bit. So I just, did that trick, and it restored most of the metallic look, which was pretty good. Anyway, back to teaching. I found this hobby, and I found it's been an amazing hobby for this because it engages my brain. It forces me to think intently about something else. And I really do have to work and think and do. I can't just autopilot most of what I'm doing. Yeah, there we go. That's much better. Yeah, I can't just autopilot the things I'm doing. So it's really, really been a great hobby for that. It's great to just disassociate for a bit, work at something, and then come back to it when you're good. So yeah, I've quite enjoyed it. Though, fun fact about teaching and my previous sermons, I told you guys I'm not an artist. That's what I told you in my first video. Well, it turns out that was a lie. Because apparently I am, because now I'm teaching art. I've got an art class, which is pretty interesting because I'm not an artist. So, it has been a wild ride on that one, trying to figure out exactly what I'm gonna do. You know what? I like this pose. It's been a wild ride on that. We've been going over what I ended up doing. Was I told the students that I'm not a great artist and that they're gonna learn as I learn. So we started doing the basics of techniques. So we just did Celtic knots, we're doing shading, but we're learning actual techniques, not just, I find what a lot of times art teachers who don't teach art do is just, here, go make something. Here, go do. Sure, I'm sure it's fine. Just go do something. And that's their art. But I didn't want to do that. So we've been running through all these things and learning the basics of different styles of art and different basic techniques and all that. And I'm actually really glad I ended up taking on the course because I expected it to be a lot of fight back from my students. I expected a trend that I've seen in recent years is I'm not immediately successful at this, therefore I don't want to do this. But that's not been the case. I'm actually very proud of my students because they're learning, a lot of them are learning stuff they've never done before with skills they don't yet have. And they're giving everything an honest try. Right, they're doing their best. One of the things that I do for grading them is I don't grade them on their artistic ability outright. I grade them on their progression because we're learning techniques. So we start out with the basics, and I'm grading them on, are they following the steps? Are they trying and all that? And again, in the past, it's been a bit of a fight to do things like that. But these guys are really loving the progression they make. They come in and they're into it. The idea that they're getting better and that they see themselves getting better. And it's just been a magical thing as an educator to look to watch. Right? Because like I said, I'm not an artist, so it's not like I'm sitting down being like, this is the right way to do things and all this. But, you know, they've identified, you know, they know that I'm not the best. And I think that humanizes it a little bit more. It's not some god from not some god from up on high looking down on what they're doing. It's some guy with a basic understanding who's just improving at it himself. And yeah, they're doing really well. They're putting in a ton of work, and it's made me really proud. And it really lights up your face. It's the best part of teaching when the kids come in and they're excited to get better, to know they don't know what they're doing, and to work on it. I really have enjoyed it. It's not remotely close to what I normally teach. But it's definitely been one of those surprise classes that you get every now and then where you're like, I didn't know what I was expecting coming into this, but this wasn't what I was expecting. Actually, that's not a lie. I knew exactly what I was expecting because I had to do it once before in my career, and I did it the same way. I was expecting complaints, crying, anger. I hate this. This is stupid. And it's not at all what I got, and it's been ever so lovely. But again, it does mean that I guess technically I did lie to you, and I'm sorry. But yeah. Now I just got to figure out a way to incorporate Warhammer minis into my my lessons. I figure we'll do dry brushing. Right, maybe I'll order some boys and we'll dry brush some boys. Yeah. Alright. So just flashing back to the video, I'm just finishing up one of my last guys here. Let me know what you think of them so far. The next step, like I said, is bluing. Bluing is the next video that comes out. At this point, I've actually kind of derped up. I painted something gold that I wanted not to be gold. But that's okay. I just go back and black it, re-black it in later. Like I said, that's up to you what you want to do, and it's right here. I just put that handle gold, and then I thought about it. Here we go. I was like, wait a second. Because what I had done was I have a different paint scheme for my bolters. When I paint the bolters on the Rubric Marines, I paint them with the gold grip. And when I do the flamers, I do the flamers with a black grip. So I'd looked at a bolter and made my decision from that. So that was fun. Made a little mistake, but that's okay. It's okay to make an oopsie daisy. You can make it, and that's what I tell my students. You can make an oopsie daisy. And if you make a small oopsie daisy, it's okay. And you can have a bunch of small oopsie daisies, and that's okay. The problem is, though, if you're not careful and you make a lot of oopsie daisies, and then you've got a bouquet of oopsie daisies. And nobody wants a bouquet of oopsie daisies. Right? So one oopsie daisy is okay, but you don't want a bouquet of oopsie daisies. But yeah, in this case here, like I said, I just got to go back and re-black that grip. Or I might not, just because, these are backup trash tier units. So I might not even bother. But yeah, that's the final work on the gold. Like I said, with the thin down, I like it more. I find the recesses show up better. I think that was my problem with this gold, was that the recesses really didn't show up very nice. As the speed paint, it really did kind of glob them up, I felt. So it just kind of went on. It went on like two thin coats, but of a solid color. I wasn't getting the speed paint effect. So by thinning it down, I found I got that a lot more. And going forward, that's how I would use that particular one as a thin down version of itself. Yeah. So I don't really know what else to talk about. I don't really have a big audience following yet that are asking me questions. Not that I ever expect to get that. But there's not really a lot to it. I guess I talked about my 1,000 Suns. I can tell you what I have for them. And then I'll segue that into my horrible addiction. So with my 1,000 Suns, I have 2 squads of rubrics, and now a squad and a half, 2.5 squads. Oh yeah, this is me. I'm talking about what I told you about earlier, but bringing the metallics out with the Necron. Yeah, I got 2 squads of rubrics, 2 squads of sots, because everybody loves Terminators. Terminators are the best. I've got a Rhino with a guy sticking it. I actually kit bashed the Rhino. I got into some mild kit bashing. I am no kit basher, but I do now like to tweak and modify stuff. So with the Rhino, instead of having the gun turret on top, I actually put a few of my extra 1,000 Suns pieces onto one of the bodies there, and have that coming out of the turret of the Rhino. So I call it my wizard tank. Everybody loves a wizard tank. It's actually pretty fun. So yeah, so I got my wizard tank, and then on top of my wizard tank is airmen. So I have airmen there. I ended up, after I bought my Rubric Marines and before I really understood 40k, I bought the 1,000 Suns Combat Patrol. So yeah, I have 20 Zongor, half of them with shields, half of them with chainswords. I'm just trying to think here. I've got a Demon Prince. My Demon Prince was my first foray into a larger model before I did Magnus. I also mildly kit bashed my Demon Prince because I didn't paint him. I built him, and then I got Magnus, then I painted Magnus, not the Demon Prince. But what I ended up doing was when I got Magnus, who was my next big purchase, and actually really the last purchase I made for my 1,000 Suns, I used one of the spell effects that he has for his sword. I clipped it off, and then I added it to the hand of the Demon Prince, so it looks like he's throwing a ball of magic. I gave Magnus his glaive, and his sword I clipped off, or I didn't clip off, but I took, and I added it to the side of the Demon Prince, so now he has this big ass magic sword. So like I didn't really mess with the posing or anything. That's why I say mildly kit bashed. But some of the decoration and ornamentation, weapons, stuff like that, I do play with. It's good if you're not... I don't think that I can use the green stuff. At least not right now. I could use green stuff and repose something and do something amazing in that regard. But even without that, I can still take a model and with very mild alterations change the feel of it a little bit. Again, my 1,000 Suns Demon Prince. I didn't like the head. I didn't think it does a good job selling that it's 1,000 Suns all the time. So I also took the crown from Magnus and put that... I was able to get that to fit onto his head. One of the side faces options for Magnus. So now I have a Demon Prince that's shooting a magic ball out of his cannon that has a big magic sword and has this nice ornamental 1,000 Sun style crown. So he feels more 1,000 Sunsy. Right? It's good. You can do what you want. I've also got an Infernal Master, and I hate Screamers, so I trimmed away the flame effect where the Screamer fits in a little bit, and I didn't put the Screamer on the stand. Some people might call that awful. I hate Screamers. I think they're stupid. So I didn't put it there. So you can feel free to do little stuff like that, right? Like it's not hard. I can tell you honestly, if I can do it, you can do it. It's not hard. A little bit of mild kit bashing never hurt anyone. And yeah, and then I have Magnus. And my Exalted Sorcerers, who are not kit bashed at all. I did not kit bash them. Though, I think I am going to experiment with using a bit of wiring to try and do like lightning effects. So I'm thinking all 3 of them, I'm going to do it. Where coming from their staves, I'm going to have a lightning effect. But we're going to see how that goes. And then I have Magnus, who was my first big centerpiece model. I talked about him already. I learned a lot of new stuff when I did him, about layering paints and dry brushing and all that good stuff. And I think I did a good job with him, especially for where I was. But even today, I still think he's turned out very nicely. And that's my whole army. One day, I'll show them all. I'll actually pick up the camera and move it. But for now, I think that's pretty good. My problem is that I like to dive into stuff, and like I said in one of my earlier videos, I have a horrific habit. Oh, hey, look, I finished all of them. I have a horrific habit of moving on with stuff, like getting something half done and then moving on. So my local game store had the Votan Start Collecting box, I think it was, on sale. So I have 2,000 plus points of Thousand Suns, and now I have 1,000 points of Votan. Oh, excuse me. I have 1,000 points of Votan. Actually, yeah, see, look, I like that. I like that. For some of the other sword, I did not gold the blade. I want the blade to be a metallic color, so I opted not to gold it. That's how it came through. It actually looks pretty worn, which I like on these guys, given what they are and what they're meant to be. I do like that it does appear to be worn and tarnished and kind of shitty. Which is another reason I would go with the speed paint, because it's quite easy to get that look if you want it. But yeah, no, 1,000 points of Votan. And because I'm awful, my partner has just bought me a couple 100 points of Nighthaunt in AOS, which I'm probably going to do eventually. I said I would never have a corner of Gray Shame, and I'm very quickly getting a corner of Gray Shame. Right. I'm hoping to finish my 1,000 Suns with you guys, and then that will finally let me go back and do my other guys. But like I said, this is a relaxation hobby for me too, so being able to poke away and say, you know what, I'm not going to do the 1,000 Suns today. This isn't a job. I want to do something else is good. It works for what I want. The fact that I can pick up one of my partner's Necrons or one of my Votan or I guess one of these Nighthaunt and do something else is good. But I'm running out of time, so thank you. Have a great day. All the normal YouTube beggary. I'm going to go with beggary. All that normal stuff that everyone else says. And have a great day. Stay safe. And always remember that you probably can't win a fight against a mountain lion.